Hello and welcome. Let's talk about that moment. It's 2, maybe 3 in the morning. You're sound asleep, finally getting that deep rest your body needs, and then, bam, a searing, vice-like grip seizes your calf. A Charley horse so intense it feels like your muscle is tearing itself apart, and it jolts you awake with a gasp. Does that sound familiar? If you're nodding your head right now, I want you to know you are so far from being alone. Studies show that up to half, and in some cases, nearly 60% of all American adults over 60 deal with these painful nighttime invasions. For folks over the age of 80, that number can jump to 50% experiencing cramps on a regular basis. This isn't some rare, unusual problem. But what if I told you that many of the real reasons behind these cramps are hiding in plain sight? In your medicine cabinet, in your favorite armchair, even in the way you make your bed. These are the things your doctor, in a busy 15-minute appointment, might not always have the time to unpack with you. And if you've been telling yourself, well, this is just what getting older feels like, I am here today to respectfully but firmly challenge that idea. Pain may be common as we age, but that does not mean it has to be your normal. In the next 25 minutes, we are going to pull back the curtain. We're going on a deep dive together. We'll count down the top 10 surprising culprits behind nighttime leg cramps, and most importantly, we'll give you a powerful, science-backed toolkit of strategies to start reclaiming your comfort and your sleep, starting tonight. Those middle-of-the-night leg cramps, or as they're officially known, nocturnal leg cramps, are so much more than just a nuisance. They rob us of our most restorative, deep sleep. They can leave our muscles feeling tender and sore for days afterward. And for many, they can create a real sense of anxiety about even going to bed, wondering if and when the next one will strike. Our ambitious goal today is to demystify this frustrating problem and, piece by piece, put the power to manage it back where it belongs, in your hands. To do that, we're not going to be talking about old wives' tales or unproven fads like putting a bar of soap under your sheets. We'll be drawing on research and guidelines from some of America's most trusted health institutions, including the Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins Medicine, and studies published in journals reviewed by the National Institute on Aging. To make this easy to follow, we're going to structure our deep dive as a countdown. We'll start with culprit number 10 and work our way down to the number 1 most fundamental secret to managing these cramps. For each culprit, we'll talk about the simple science of why it happens. We'll share a relatable story to help it stick. And most importantly, we'll give you a clear, simple action step you can take. And you'll definitely want to stick around for our top 5. We're going to talk about the great imposter that often gets confused with leg cramps. And we'll open up the medicine cabinet to look at some of the most common prescriptions in America that could be making your cramps worse. You won't want to miss that. Now, a quick but very important reminder. I am an expert in breaking down complex health information, but I am not your doctor. This video is for informational and educational purposes only. The information we're sharing today is designed to help you have more informed, more productive conversations with your own healthcare provider. It is not, and should not be considered, a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always, and I mean always, seek the advice of your personal physician or another qualified health provider with any questions you have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard their professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have read or seen here today. All right, with that said, are you ready to get started? Let's begin our countdown. All right, let's kick off our countdown with number 10. It's something you interact with every single night, but probably never suspect as a culprit: your own bedding. The science behind this is surprisingly simple and mechanical. Think about it for a moment. When you're lying on your back, What do heavy blankets or tightly tucked-in sheets do? They press down on your feet, forcing them into a position called plantar flexion. That's the same position as pointing your toes, like a ballerina. When your feet are held in this position for hours on end, it keeps your calf muscle in a shortened, contracted state. A shortened muscle is a muscle that's primed and ready to spasm. It's like holding your hand in a tightly clenched fist all night and then being surprised when your hand is stiff and sore in the morning. I remember my own grandmother, who was a wonderful woman who loved a perfectly made bed with crisp, military-style corners. For years, she complained about terrible leg cramps. One day, during a checkup, her doctor gave her the strangest advice she'd ever heard. He told her to mess up her bed before she got in it at night. She thought he was joking at first, but just by loosening those tightly tucked sheets at the foot of the bed, she gave her feet the freedom to rest in a more neutral, relaxed position. It wasn't a magic cure, but she told me it dramatically improved how often she was woken up by those awful cramps. So your action step here is wonderfully simple and takes all of 10 seconds. Tonight, before you get into bed, go to the foot and loosen the sheets and blankets. Give your feet some room to breathe and move. If you tend to sleep on your back, you can also try propping a small pillow under your knees, which can help take the pressure off and prevent your feet from pointing downwards all night. Now, it's important to mention that this is a simple mechanical fix. If your cramps are severe and are accompanied by other symptoms like persistent swelling, redness, or changes in the color of your skin, then the position of your sheets is not the primary issue. That's a clear sign that it's time to schedule a visit with your healthcare provider. So we've adjusted your bed for a better night's sleep. But what you do before you even get in it can be just as important. That brings us directly to culprit number 9. Coming in at number 9 is the cumulative toll of a long day. I'm talking about simple, straightforward muscle fatigue, especially if your day involves long periods of standing or walking, particularly on hard surfaces like concrete or tile. Here's the simple science. Our muscles are a bit like batteries. Throughout the day, especially if you're a nurse, a teacher, a retail worker, or just someone who loves to stay active and on your feet, you're slowly draining that battery. By the end of the day, those muscles are tired. Research from trusted sources like the Mayo Clinic suggests that fatigued muscles are twitchier and more prone to misfiring. The nerve signals that are supposed to tell them to contract and relax in an orderly fashion can get a little jumbled. This electrical confusion can lead to an involuntary, full-blown, painful contraction, a cramp, when you finally put your feet up and try to relax. I think of my friend Bill, a retired postal worker who, to stay busy, took up a part-time job as a greeter at one of those big box stores. He was on his feet for hours at a time, standing on a hard concrete floor. He felt fine during his shift, but almost every single night, he'd be jolted awake by excruciating cramps in his calves. He was convinced he needed more potassium and was eating bananas like they were going out of style. But the real issue wasn't his diet. Your action step here is all about prevention and support during the day to have a better night. First, and this is crucial, invest in good supportive footwear. Shoes that offer proper arch support can make a world of difference in reducing the daily strain on your leg muscles. Second, think about breaking up the monotony for your muscles. If you stand for long periods, make it a point to take short sitting breaks. And if you sit for long periods, make it a point to get up and take short walking breaks. It's about giving your muscles a change of pace. Of course, we need to mention a red flag here. If your leg pain isn't just a nighttime cramp, but a consistent deep ache that comes on when you walk and reliably goes away when you rest, this might be more than simple fatigue. It could be a sign of a circulatory issue known as claudication. We'll touch on that more in a bit, but that pattern is a definite check-in with your doctor moment. So we've covered what happens when we overuse our muscles. But what about the natural changes that happen to our muscles over the years, even without a demanding job? That leads us to the unavoidable reality of number 8. At number 8, we have to address the elephant in the room, the natural, normal process of aging itself. As we get older, our bodies change in remarkable ways, and that includes our muscles and the nerves that control them. This isn't a sign of failure. There are two key things happening here, scientifically speaking. First, we all experience a natural age-related loss of muscle mass. The medical term for this is sarcopenia. Research suggests that after the age of 30, we can lose between 3% and 5% of our muscle mass per decade. Less muscle means the remaining muscle tissue has to work harder to do the same jobs, which means it fatigues more easily. Second, the number and efficiency of our motor neurons also tend to decline. These are the specialized nerve cells that carry signals from our brain and spinal cord to our muscles, telling them what to do. As we age, this can lead to a sort of communication breakdown between the command center and the troops on the ground, making muscles more susceptible to those disorganized signals that result in a cramp. This isn't about being old or weak, it's just physiology. I think of my own mother, who for decades could garden for 6 hours straight without a problem. Now, she finds that after 2 or 3 hours, she needs a good break. It's not that she's lost her passion for her roses. The action step here is the single most powerful antidote we have against age-related muscle loss: resistance exercise. Now, this doesn't mean you have to go out and become a bodybuilder. Not at all. It can be as simple as doing bodyweight squats while holding onto a chair for balance, using simple resistance bands, or lifting light hand weights while you watch the evening news. The goal is to send a clear, consistent signal to your body that says, "Hey, I still need these muscles." This helps to preserve muscle mass and keeps those crucial nerve connections strong and healthy. The red flag to watch for is this. While some gradual loss of muscle strength is normal, if you notice significant muscle weakness, or what's called wasting, where a muscle in one leg visibly gets smaller than the other, especially if it's accompanied by frequent cramps, that warrants a medical evaluation to rule out other, more specific neurological conditions. Building and preserving our muscles is absolutely key, but even the strongest muscles need the right fuel to function properly. And that brings us to a surprisingly common deficiency at number 7. Coming in at number 7 on our countdown is a nutritional gap that many people, especially those of us over 60, simply don't know about: a lack of B vitamins. When we think about cramps, our minds usually jump straight to minerals like potassium or magnesium. But a whole family of vitamins, the vitamin B complex, plays a critical role in the health of our nervous system. Here's a simple way to think about it. Imagine an electrical wire in your home. It has a protective plastic coating around the copper wire. In our bodies, our nerves have a similar protective coating called the myelin sheath. B vitamins, especially B12, are absolutely essential for maintaining the health of that sheath. When we're low on them, that insulation can get thin, and nerve signals can get short-circuited or jumbled, leading to the misfires that we feel as a muscle cramp. I was following a discussion in an online health forum, and a gentleman, let's call him George, shared his story. He had tried everything for his relentless cramps: bananas, tonic water, stretching, you name it. Nothing worked. His doctor finally decided to run some routine blood work and discovered that George was low in vitamin B12. This is quite common, as our bodies can find it harder to absorb B12 from food as we age. His doctor recommended a simple, over-the-counter B-complex supplement. George reported that after taking it consistently for a few months, it made a world of difference for him. So, your action step here is to have a conversation with your doctor about your diet and the possibility of getting your vitamin levels checked, especially B12. In the meantime, you can focus on eating more B vitamin-rich foods. Think whole grains, lean meats, fish, eggs, dairy products, and leafy green vegetables. But it is vital to consult your healthcare provider before starting any new supplement, including a B complex. They can help you determine if you actually need it and what the right dosage would be for you. And the red flag here is important. Deficiencies in B vitamins, particularly B12, can cause more than just cramps. If you're also experiencing symptoms like persistent tingling or numbness in your hands or feet, or having issues with your balance, it's especially important to get checked out. These can be signs of nerve-related issues that need prompt medical attention. So we've talked about fueling our nerves. But what if the problem isn't the fuel, but the delivery system itself? That brings us to the very serious topic of circulation at number 6. At number 6, we need to pause and talk about something more serious. Sometimes, what feels like a simple, harmless leg cramp can actually be a critical warning sign from your circulatory system. Specifically, it can be a symptom of a condition called peripheral artery disease, or P.A.D. for short. Here's the science. P.A.D. is a condition where the arteries that supply blood to your limbs, usually your legs, become narrowed or blocked by a buildup of fatty plaque. When you're resting, there might be just enough blood flow to get by. But at night, or when you start to walk, your muscles demand more oxygen-rich blood to function. If the pipes are narrowed, they simply can't deliver enough. This lack of blood flow is called ischemia, and it can cause intense, cramping pain in the muscles. This is a fundamentally different cause than a benign cramp from fatigue or a mineral imbalance. I want to share a powerful and true story that was published by Northside Hospital about a man named Tim Hale. Tim woke up one Saturday with what he assumed was just a normal leg cramp. But this one wouldn't go away, no matter how much he stretched. Soon after, he started feeling a pins and needles sensation in his foot. His wife, sensing something was wrong, insisted they go to the emergency room immediately. It turned out that Tim had a massive blood clot, called a thrombosed aneurysm, completely blocking the main artery in his leg. He was at immediate risk of losing his leg, or even his life. His entire life-threatening ordeal started with what felt like a simple leg cramp. Tim's story is a potent reminder that we have to listen carefully to what our bodies are telling us. Your action step here is one of awareness and observation. Pay close attention to the pattern of your pain. Does the cramping pain in your calves reliably start after you walk a certain distance, say 1 or 2 blocks, and then reliably go away after a few minutes of rest? This is the classic sign of what doctors call intermittent claudication, and it's a hallmark symptom of P.A.D. If this pattern sounds familiar, your action step is to schedule an appointment with your doctor and specifically ask the question, could this pain be related to my circulation? This entire point is a red flag. If a cramp is persistent, doesn't go away with stretching, and is accompanied by other symptoms like numbness, a feeling of coldness in one foot compared to the other, or changes in skin color, like the leg turning pale or white, this is not something to wait and see about. As Tim's story so clearly shows, this could be a medical emergency requiring immediate attention. This is a serious topic, and it really underscores how important it is to understand the potential root causes of our symptoms. Now, let's take a quick breath. We're halfway through our countdown. Okay, let's pause for just a moment. We've covered a lot of ground already. We've talked about the comfort trap of your bedding, the muscle fatigue that comes from the daily grind, the natural changes that come with age, the forgotten fuel of B vitamins, and the critical circulation question. The common thread connecting all of these points is that nighttime leg cramps are rarely caused by just one big thing. More often than not, they're the result of several smaller things adding up over time. But the good news, the really empowering news, is that these are things you can influence. And by the way, if you're finding this deep dive helpful, if you've had an aha moment already, would you do me a small favor and tap that like button below this video? It's a simple, free way to give us a thumbs up. It tells YouTube that this is valuable information, and it helps other folks just like you find our community and get the help they're looking for. All right, are you ready for the top 5? This is where we get into the real game changers, including the biggest myths and the secrets hiding right there in your own home. Let's dive back in. All right, we're into our top 5, and coming in at number 5 is the one cause that everyone thinks they know, dehydration. But the real secret here is that the problem is often more complex than just a lack of water. The science is clear that water is absolutely essential. Our muscle cells are made up of about 60% to 70% water, and when they're dehydrated, they can't contract and relax as smoothly as they should. But here's the key. Water doesn't work in a vacuum. It works in a delicate, beautiful dance with electrolytes, which are simply minerals like sodium, potassium, and magnesium. Let's use an analogy. Think of the water in your body as a river. The river itself is vital, but the electrolytes are like the traffic signals along the riverbank that tell the water where to go and what to do, helping to send nerve signals correctly. If you drink tons and tons of plain water, but you're low on those electrolytes, the traffic signals are still scrambled. The messages get crossed, and your muscles can still lock up in a painful cramp. My own father, Bob, was a perfect example of this deception. He was a proud man who swore up and down that he drank plenty of fluids all day. But when we looked closer, his fluids consisted of 3 cups of strong black coffee in the morning and a huge glass of sugary iced tea in the afternoon. Both coffee and traditional tea contain caffeine, which is a natural diuretic, a substance that actually makes your body lose more fluid through urination. So, he was unknowingly dehydrating himself while believing he was doing the right thing. He couldn't understand why his legs would ache and cramp so much in the evenings. So your action step is to upgrade your hydration strategy. First, focus on steady sipping of water throughout the day, not just chugging a big glass when you finally feel thirsty. By the time you feel thirsty, you're often already dehydrated. Second, be mindful of those diuretics like caffeine and alcohol, which can work against you. And third, start thinking about eating your water. You can get a significant amount of hydration from water-rich foods like cucumbers, celery, watermelon, oranges, and even soups and broths. The red flag for dehydration is when it becomes severe. If you're experiencing not just cramps, but also symptoms like confusion, significant dizziness, or a very rapid heart rate, that's a medical issue that needs immediate attention. Simple leg cramps are one thing, but systemic dehydration is a whole other level of concern. Being mindful of what you drink is crucial. But what about the things you might be taking every single day without a second thought? That brings us to the explosive topic at number 4, your own medicine cabinet. This might be the biggest aha moment of our entire discussion for many of you. Coming in at number 4, a major hidden culprit behind your nighttime leg cramps could be the very medications prescribed by your doctor to keep you healthy. This is a huge, often overlooked topic. A significant number of the most commonly prescribed medications in America list muscle cramps as a potential side effect. Let's talk about the big 3 that are particularly relevant for older adults. First, diuretics, often called water pills. These are medications like hydrochlorothiazide or furosemide, frequently prescribed for high blood pressure or fluid retention. They work by helping your body flush out excess salt and water, but in that process, they can also flush out crucial cramp-preventing minerals like potassium and magnesium, creating the exact electrolyte imbalance we just talked about. Second, statins. Medications like atorvastatin, brand name Lipitor, or simvastatin, Zocor, are incredibly effective at lowering cholesterol and protecting heart health. But for a subset of people who take them, they can cause muscle pain, aches, and cramps. The exact reason why this happens isn't perfectly understood, but it is a well-documented and recognized side effect. Third, many others. The list is long, but even some asthma inhalers, particularly long-acting beta agonists and other types of blood pressure medications like beta blockers, have been linked to a higher risk of cramps. Let's think about a woman named Betty, whose story was shared on a popular health forum. She was suffering terribly from cramps for a week straight, waking her up every night. She tried propping up pillows, walking around the house, even the old wives' tale of apple cider vinegar. Nothing was working. It turned out that her severe cramps had started shortly after her doctor had prescribed a new medication for her. Once she and her doctor connected the dots and were able to adjust her treatment plan, her cramps finally subsided. Her story shows how vital it is to consider the timing of when your cramps started or got worse in relation to any changes in your medications. Your action step here is absolutely not to stop taking your medication. I need to repeat that because it is so important. Do not stop taking any prescribed medication on your own. Instead, your action step is to become a health detective. Get out a piece of paper. Write down all your prescriptions and even your regular over-the-counter drugs. Then, make a note of when your leg cramps started or became more frequent. If you see a potential connection in the timeline, your next step is to call your doctor or your pharmacist and ask an empowered, collaborative question. You can say, "I've noticed my leg cramps have been much worse since I started taking this medication name. I read that this can sometimes be a side effect. Could there be a link, and are there any alternatives we could discuss?" The red flag here is simple. Never ever change or stop a prescribed medication without talking to your healthcare provider first. They are your partner in this. They can weigh the benefits of the medication against the side effects and work with you to find the best path forward for your overall health. Asking the right questions about your medications is a huge step toward taking control. But it's also critically important to make sure we're talking about the right problem in the first place. And that leads us to the great imposter at number 3. Coming in hot at number 3 is a classic case of mistaken identity. Many people who suffer for years thinking they have severe nighttime leg cramps actually have a completely different, though related condition: Restless Legs Syndrome, or RLS. They both tend to happen at night, they both affect the legs, and they both disrupt sleep. But they are not the same thing. Here is the key difference according to experts at Johns Hopkins and the Mayo Clinic. A leg cramp is an intense, involuntary muscle contraction that causes sharp pain. You can often feel the muscle knotted up and hard. RLS, on the other hand, is a neurological condition. It's characterized by an overwhelming, irresistible urge to move your legs. The feeling is often described not as pain, but as something creepy, crawly, tingly, or jittery deep inside the limbs. With a cramp, you want to stretch the muscle out to relieve the pain. With RLS, you feel like you just have to get up and move, and pacing the floor is often the only thing that brings relief. Let's imagine two neighbors, Mary and John, talking over the fence, both complaining about their legs keeping them up at night. Mary says, "It's awful. My calf just locks up into a painful, hard knot, and I have to grab my foot and pull on it to get it to release." That's a classic description of a nocturnal leg cramp. But John says, "For me, it's not really a sharp pain. It's this antsy, jittery feeling, like I have ants crawling inside my legs. And the only thing that helps is to get out of bed and pace around the living room for a while." That's a classic description of RLS. Getting the right diagnosis is the absolute first step to getting the right treatment, because the approaches are very different. So your action step is to become a precise observer of your own symptoms. The next time it happens, in the middle of the night, ask yourself this one question. Is this a painful muscle knot, or is this an overwhelming urge to move? Write down your answer in a small notebook by your bed. If you consistently find that it's the urge to move, your next step is to tell your doctor that you suspect it might be RLS, not just simple cramps. The red flag for both of these conditions is the impact on your life. Both can severely disrupt your sleep and dramatically affect your daytime energy and quality of life. If either of these is happening to you on a frequent basis, it's worth getting a proper diagnosis from a professional. Don't just assume it's one or the other and continue to suffer in silence. Getting the diagnosis right is critical. But for true classic muscle cramps, one of the biggest culprits is something we do, or rather, don't do, all day long. That brings us to number 2. We've arrived at number 2, and it's the surprising flip side of the overuse coin we talked about earlier. It's the hidden danger of underuse, or what I like to call the sedentary shortening. The science here makes perfect sense when you think about it. If you spend long hours sitting, whether it's at a desk, in a car, or in your favorite comfy recliner watching TV, your muscles are held in a shortened position for extended periods. Your hamstrings are bent, your hip flexors are tight, and your calf muscles are relaxed and slack. Over time, your muscles and the connective tissues around them actually adapt to this shortened state. They effectively forget what their full, natural length feels like. Then, when you finally go to bed and stretch out, or even just twitch in your sleep, that shortened, tight muscle is easily provoked and overstimulated, sending it into a full-blown, painful spasm. There's even a fascinating theory that modern humans get more cramps simply because we no longer squat as a resting position, a position that naturally keeps our calf muscles and tendons long and flexible. Let's go back to that dear weary letter from the health column we mentioned earlier. The very first piece of advice the doctor gave was that one of the most common reasons for nighttime cramps is being too sedentary during the day. With so many of us leading less active lifestyles than previous generations, our muscles are getting shorter and tighter without us even realizing it. So your action step here is one of the most powerful and proactive things you can do. Incorporate gentle, consistent stretching into your daily routine, especially before bed. You don't need to become a yoga master. Simply focus on your calves and your hamstrings. Before you turn in for the night, perform a simple wall stretch for your calves, holding each side for 30 seconds. Then do a gentle hamstring stretch, perhaps by sitting on the floor and reaching for your toes. The key is to hold the stretch without bouncing. This isn't about forcing anything. The red flag is simple. Listen to your body. If stretching causes a sharp shooting pain, or if you have a known joint injury like a bad knee or hip, it's best to talk to your doctor or a physical therapist. They can show you which stretches are safe and most effective for your specific body. The goal is to lengthen the muscle, not to cause a new injury. Stretching is like tuning up the instrument. But what about the electricity that actually makes the instrument play? That brings us finally to our number 1 secret for stopping nighttime leg cramps. And here we are. We've reached the number 1 most fundamental and most empowering secret to gaining control over your nighttime leg cramps. It's not a fancy pill or an expensive machine. It is understanding and actively managing your body's master controller, your electrolyte balance. This is the concept that ties almost everything else we've talked about together. Electrolytes, as we've touched on, are simply minerals that carry a small electrical charge when dissolved in our body's fluids. The main players are sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium. They are quite literally the spark plugs of your entire muscular system. Let's use a simple, powerful analogy to make this clear. Think of each of your muscle fibers as being controlled by a light switch. Calcium is the finger that flips that switch to the on position, telling the muscle to contract and tighten. Magnesium is the finger that comes along and flips the switch back to the off position, telling the muscle to relax. Meanwhile, sodium and potassium work together to manage all the electrical wiring in the walls, ensuring the signals are clean, clear, and don't short-circuit. When these four minerals are out of balance, maybe you have too little magnesium to flip the switch off, or not enough potassium and sodium to keep the wiring clean. You can end up with a switch that gets stuck in the on position. That, in essence, is a muscle cramp. This simple analogy explains why the old advice to eat a banana for cramps has a grain of truth to it. Bananas are famously high in potassium, one part of the wiring team. But it's an incomplete picture. A person could eat bananas all day long, but if their diet is low in magnesium, or if they are losing extra potassium because of a diuretic medication they're taking, the problem won't be solved. It's not about any single mineral, so your number one action step is to eat the rainbow of electrolytes. Don't just focus on one. Make a conscious effort to include foods rich in all four key players in your daily diet. For potassium, think beyond bananas to sweet potatoes, avocados, spinach, and beans. For magnesium, this is the relaxation mineral. Find it in leafy greens like spinach and Swiss chard, nuts, seeds, and even a small piece of dark chocolate. For calcium, look to dairy products like yogurt and milk, fortified plant-based milks, and even canned sardines with the bones in. Focusing on a varied whole foods diet is the best way to get this balance naturally. And once again, it's always wise to consult your doctor before taking high-dose mineral supplements, especially if you have any kidney issues, as they can have trouble processing excess minerals. The red flag here is that a severe electrolyte imbalance can be a serious medical issue, sometimes affecting heart rhythms. If your cramps are ever accompanied by symptoms like heart palpitations, extreme muscle weakness, or a feeling of confusion, this is a situation that requires immediate medical attention. For most people, simple dietary adjustments are safe and incredibly effective. But for severe symptoms, professional medical guidance is absolutely essential. And there you have it. From your bedsheets to your dinner plate, 10 interconnected science-backed reasons for your nighttime leg cramps. So, as we've seen together today, tackling these painful nighttime cramps isn't about finding one single magic bullet or a miracle cure. It's about becoming a good detective of your own body and your daily life. It's about understanding that the way you sleep, the way you move or don't move, the medications you take for other conditions, and the foods you eat are all interconnected pieces of the very same puzzle. The most important message, the core idea I want you to take away from our time together is this: you are the chief executive of your own health. You have the power to observe your symptoms, to ask smarter questions, to make small, intelligent choices every single day, and to work with your doctor as an informed and empowered partner. You are not powerless against this problem. You have a toolkit now. Now, I truly want to hear from you. Which of these 10 culprits was the biggest aha moment for you? Was it the hidden connection to your daily medications? The crucial difference between cramps and restless leg syndrome? Or maybe the simple light switch analogy for electrolytes? Please leave a comment down below. I read every single one, and your story, your aha moment, might just be the key that helps someone else in this wonderful community. And finally, if you enjoyed this deep dive and you want more practical, no-nonsense health content designed to help you live a more vibrant, comfortable, and independent life after 60, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button and ring the little notification bell. That way, you won't miss our next video together. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Here's to your health, Here's to your independence, and here's to a peaceful, restful, and completely cramp-free night's sleep. I'll see you in the next video.